In a moment that no fan could have anticipated, Nam Ji-hyun was left speechless, her eyes glistening with uncontrollable tears, as Chang-wook stepped forward and did something so bold, so heartfelt, and so unexpected that it left the entire room stunned. Before we dive into the full, emotional story, be sure to hit that subscribe button right now, because if you thought their chemistry was only for the screen, what happened behind the scenes proves this bond is something else entirely. For years, Nam Ji-hyun and Chang-wook have been the subject of public fascination. Their on-screen chemistry is legendary, intense, tender, and deeply believable. But what made fans cling so tightly to their pairing wasn't just the roles they played, it was the way they looked at each other when the cameras weren't rolling. The subtle gestures, the lingering glances, the almost instinctive way they moved in sync, it was too real to ignore. And yet, through all the speculation, they kept things private. Until now. The setting was a celebratory dinner hosted in honor of the cast of a recent drama they'd completed. It was supposed to be casual, a light-hearted evening with laughter, food, and maybe a few toasts. But what started as a simple gathering turned into a night no one would forget. Surrounded by colleagues, managers, and even close friends from the industry, Chang-wook stood up, clinked his glass, and asked for everyone's attention. His voice was calm, but there was something different in his tone, something deeper. Nam Ji-hyun, seated just a few feet away, looked up curiously. At first, she assumed he was giving a typical thank you speech. But as he continued speaking, it became clear this was no ordinary moment. Chang-wook wasn't addressing the team, he was speaking directly to her. He began by recalling the first time they worked together, how impressed he had been by her quiet strength, her warmth, and her unshakable professionalism. He spoke about the long nights on set, the pressure of the roles, and how, in the midst of it all, she remained a constant source of calm for everyone around her, including himself. Then, he paused. And when he continued, the room fell into a hush. Chang-wook confessed that behind his smile and cool demeanor, he had been struggling during the filming. Personally, emotionally, he had been battling things no one knew about. But there was one person who noticed, one person who always checked in, who made him laugh, who reminded him to eat, and who stood by him quietly when he didn't even know he needed support. That person, he said, was Nam Ji-hyun. As he said her name, all eyes turned to her. Nam Ji-hyun was already blinking rapidly, clearly taken aback by his sudden sincerity. But what happened next completely shattered her composure. Chang-wook reached into his pocket and pulled out a small envelope. He didn't get down on one knee. This wasn't a proposal. But it was something equally rare and meaningful. Inside the envelope was a handwritten letter, a tradition in Korea often reserved for deep, heartfelt moments. He walked over to her, handed it to her directly, and then said something that made the entire room erupt in gasps. "Ji-hyun," he said, his voice unwavering, "no other man dared to say this to you publicly, and maybe they were afraid. But I'm not. You changed me. You helped me become a better man. And I want you to know, whatever your answer may be, thank you for letting me feel something real again." Tears began to fall down Nam Ji-hyun's face before she even opened the letter. She tried to compose herself, wiping at her cheeks and laughing softly through the emotion, but the depth of his words had touched something she couldn't hide. She clutched the envelope against her chest, and for a moment, it felt like time had stopped. The guests around them were silent, some wiping their own tears. It wasn't just romantic, it was deeply human. Here was a man who dared to be vulnerable, to speak the truth in front of peers and press alike. And here was a woman who, despite her composed public image, was deeply moved in a way no one had ever seen before. Later that evening, when the gathering broke into smaller conversations and the music resumed, fans were quick to notice a change. Chang-wook and Nam Ji-hyun stayed close, talking, laughing, and smiling in a way that felt newly intimate. No longer careful or guarded, but free. The next morning, the media exploded. Photos from the night leaked onto social media, Chang-wook handing Nam Ji-hyun the letter, her tear-streaked face as she held it tightly. Hashtags like hashtag Chang Hyun moment and hashtag jihyun tears began trending worldwide. Fans flooded their pages with messages of support, love, and curiosity. What did the letter say? What happened after the dinner ended? And more importantly, was this the start of something official? Though neither of them released a public statement right away, close sources hinted that the letter had been something deeply personal. According to one insider, Chang Wook had written not just about his feelings, but also his hopes that they might explore something more than friendship, away from the cameras and the pressures of the industry. Nam Ji-hyun, who is known for her thoughtful nature, reportedly took her time responding. But she did make a quiet statement of her own. Days after the event, she posted a photo to her social media of a sunset sky, captioned simply, "Some things are worth waiting for." And just like that, fans began to believe that the story wasn't over, it was just beginning. Weeks later, the two were spotted together in a low-key setting, at a small cafe in Seoul, just the two of them, sitting by a window, sharing coffee. Unlike previous paparazzi sightings where they would hide or ignore the cameras, this time they didn't flinch. In fact, Chang Wook smiled directly at the photographer, as if to say, "Yes, you're seeing this." The impact of that one moment, of Chang Wook doing what no other man dared to do, continued to ripple. Industry insiders began praising the vulnerability he had shown. Fans respected the courage it took to make such a gesture in front of so many. And most importantly, Nam Ji-hyun herself, usually private to a fault, seemed to open up in a way that was rare and beautiful. In a follow-up interview, when asked about the moment, she said, "Sometimes someone does something so honest, so unexpected, that your only response is tears. Not because you're sad, but because you've been seen. Really seen. And that kind of honesty, it's rare." As for Chang Wook, he didn't confirm or deny anything. But he did say, "When you care about someone, truly care, you don't worry about the spotlight. You just speak your truth. And I'm glad I did." And so, the world continues to watch, rooting for two people who dared to step outside of scripted romance and into something far more vulnerable and real. Nam Ji-hyun cried that night, not because she was broken, but because she was overwhelmed by something genuine. And Chang Wook proved that even in a world of image and perfection, a man can still lead with his heart. What's next for them? Only time will tell. But one thing is certain, no one will forget the night when Chang Wook stood up, looked into Nam Ji-hyun's eyes, and said what no other man ever had the courage to say. And if you want to be the first to know what happens next in this beautiful, unfolding love story, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Because in this world of fleeting fame and scripted emotions, the truth is rarer than ever, and this, my friends, feels like the truth.